Hey everybody, Dave Laird here with DCS Training, and I'm here to introduce the Mantis Academy warm-up drill target by DCS. Okay, these are the same targets that we use for Faster Saves Lives, training teachers, faculty, and staff how to respond to active shooters nationwide. I encourage you to check out the program. Make sure your local schools and school resource officers know about the program, because we want to be able to provide that training to every school in the nation to make schools safer throughout our country. All right, so today we're going to be discussing the warm-up drill. Now, in order for you to do the warm-up drill, the first thing you have to do is the circle drill. Okay, you have to make sure that your fundamentals are super strong before you try to attempt the warm-up drill. Okay, and if they're not, then go back, check out the other video that we have on circle targets to work on your draw to first shot with and without concealment. And once you've mastered that skill, you're ready for the warm-up drill. Okay, so why do I call this the warm-up drill? Because at the beginning of all my classes, the warm-up drill is what I use to test and assess my students to ensure that they're at the proper training level for the class that we're going to be teaching. If they struggle and have difficulty with this target, then their chances are they're not going to be able to focus and concentrate on what they're really here to learn, which may be the movement, the cover and concealment, low light, the other stuff that we're getting into. So this is the foundations of basic marksmanship and understanding how your weapon performs and operates. All right, so this is broken down into 4 rows. The very top row has 5 squares on it, and you're going to draw the first shot 3 times in each box. Now, it's critical in order for round count and for you to self-assess that you're not taking any extra shots or do-overs and things like that. You only get to do 1 shot in each box 3 times in the top row, and if you are successful in all that, then you graduate and you get to go on to the next row. If you can't master that one skill, then there's no point moving on to the other rows. Go back to the circle targets and get better at that first exercise. So here's what this looks like. Comfortable natural stance with or without concealment. I'm going to draw my firearm and I'm going to put 1 round in that first box. Notice that I didn't rush it. Okay, it's one smooth transaction. I want to take my time, ensure I've got a good solid sight, and get 90% of that trigger done as I'm reaching out, so I can only finish the 10. All right, so once again, starting on that first row, I've got my first shot. Everything seemed really smooth, so now I can work on picking up my speed. Okay, so if I'm still fumbling with things, then I need to slow it down. But if I'm nice and smooth and I'm still accurate, then I want to try and speed up. So I'm just going to take a little smoother, right through the same hole. That's awesome. Same hole. All right, this thing is 0. So now I'm going to do the same thing all the way across the top row. 1 shot in each square. Every time I'm successful, I want to try and pick up speed, make it happen a little faster. If I get outside the square, the outside edge, I might want to slow down, focus and concentrate more on the process, which will help me get the results I'm looking for. All right, so we smoked that top row. You can sort of see I've got a pretty consistent speed there. Can I go faster? Absolutely. But I was going as fast as I could while still guaranteeing my hits. All right, and that's super important. You can't miss fast enough. So if you're going so fast you're starting to miss, there's not much point in you practicing at that speed. Okay, slow it down, myelinate. That means make everything as super consistent as possible to guarantee that you're always able to do that. So that means I've graduated that top row, and you get to decide if you had 1 or 2 out and you know what happened. Should you move on? Probably. Okay, but that's up to you. But if I can't do that, if I don't know what I'm doing wrong, if I'm still all flustered, then there's not much point in you doing the next row, because the next row is really tough. So let me explain that to you. So if I have iron sights, you notice that there's a line over each one of these boxes. Okay, what I want to try and do is align my iron sights with that line, so all 3 of them are flat, flush, level, and even with that line. Okay, And so what this is going to do is teach me my height over bore. Now, for those of you that have dot guns, you're going to want to place your dot on the dot and press your trigger. Now, that's a little tiny dot all the way across here, but it's doable. You're only at 3 yards, should still be visible. If you need to, put a marker on that stuff, make it a little larger for yourself. But what we're looking for here is consistency all the way across, that we're the exact same height. There's no left or right movement. Let me show you what I mean. Okay. So this is a row that you don't want to rust. Okay. Nice comfortable stance. You're going to see me do this a whole lot slower because I need to guarantee everything stays completely consistent. Okay. So I'm going to drive that gun out, put my dot on the dot, take out the 90%, gradually break my trigger. Notice how much slower that was than previous. Now the next line dips down a little bit. It's not relevant. I'm going to stare at that dot, drive my dot onto the dot. And Dave, what are you thinking about right now? I'm thinking about 90-10, 90-10. I'm thinking about that trigger. I got my sight, 90-10, and it breaks. All right, now you notice those lines are at an angle. The first one's at an angle left. So I'm going to drive out straight first. Now I'm going to lean my whole upper torso. So I'm bending my left leg a little bit to help my torso switch over. I'm getting my iron sights parallel to the target, using my red dot to aim, gradually increasing pressure, 90-10. Don't hold your breath. The next one leans over to the right. Drive it straight out. Same thing, bend my right leg, get my hips to turn over. I'm trying to get my whole upper torso to go with the sights, parallel with the line and the dot, 90, 10. Okay. Now I'm going to holster up. Let's take a look at what we did here. So I've got nearly an inch there. I was a little tighter there, nearly an inch, but I also deviated a little bit right. But I'm back to that inch. I'm back to that almost inch. This is what I'm looking for. 1, 2, pretty close, 3, as consistent as possible. So this will show me if I have any left or right deviation. Remember, we have less forgiveness left to right than we do up and down. So where your sight is on the target, you've got greater forgiveness top and bottom, no forgiveness when it comes to your trigger press left and right. If I can do this, then we're ready for this. So this will tell me that when I aim here, I hit here, and now I know my offset at 3 yards. It's important to understand this on these angle targets, because what if it's a hostage situation and you've got two heads side by side, but now you turn your firearm around cover and concealment. You might be aiming here but striking here, which is not where you want it to go. What if you're aiming over the hood of a car and the person's head's up there and you hit the hood instead of the face, or you're going over their head instead of on their face? So this isn't just a drill we practice at 3 yards. Anytime I'm shooting, especially with a red dot, I want to count out all the way to even 100 yards and know if I'm aiming here, where will my bullet impact at all these various distances, so I can be more focused on where to aim, where to press from those various distances. Okay, otherwise we'll have some sort of zipper formation or left and right formation out there, and we won't understand why. This is to help us do that. And what you'll find is sometimes people's equilibrium's leaning like that throws you off a little bit. We put movement in the gun we don't want. So it's a really good skill to practice. Okay, that only took 5 rounds. That took 15 rounds. So we're 20 rounds deep into this target. Now we're going to put 10 on this next row. Let me show you how. All right, so now we're on to that third row. This is going to be 1 draw, 1 shot, twice in each box. From 9 feet, 3 yards, I'm going to put a 9mm bullet through a 9mm target, which is that black circle. Okay, so I'm going to do my whole draw stroke again, get my sights on target, gradually take my 90-10 out of my finger, get back onto the reset with a good sight picture, consciously move my finger, and reholster. Now that was super slow, and that's not the speed I'm used to working at. So what I want is one continuous flow. What I don't want to see is that I get out there, I hang out there, I'm still pressing my trigger, still pressing my trigger, still pressing my trigger, still pressing my trigger, and getting the bang. Okay? That's not a good draw to first shot. I want one smooth continuous motion. As soon as my sights are on it, I want to be able to finish that trigger and guarantee my hit. That's what the circle targets are for. So now we need to put it to use, and we have to adjust for our height of our bore. This is the tough one. A little tall. But notice I'm not hanging out there. All right, notice I rushed. I had to adjust and change my speed. Awesome. The first time you attempt this, chances are you're probably going to get a lot that are just outside the black dot, even when you really slow it down. But that's not what this is for. This is for you to grade and measure yourself. The next time you shoot it, you'll have more of them hitting. The next time you shoot it, you'll have more of them hitting. And you'll be able to tell your good days from your bad. Okay? I've done 10 out of 10, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 times out of thousands of times of doing this in class. Typically, I always have one or two that I go a little fast on and I have to slow it down. Okay, this one's a lot of fun, and it really shows you whether or not you're getting out there, hanging out there, or if your draw to first shot is really strong. All right, next we have to load up all of our magazines back here for this last drill, because that's going to be 5 rounds each. That'll be exactly 50 rounds, and then we'll still have a bonus box, and I can't wait to show you the bonus box. All right, folks, we got our mags all loaded up, and now we're going to start working on our cadence exercise across that bottom row. What is cadence? It's the amount of time between shots. Okay. If you're a competitive shooter or defensive shooter, it's important that you're able to deliver accurate, consistent follow-up shots as quickly as possible. If I'm in fear for my life, I have to draw my gun and I have to shoot someone until I stop the threat. I want to guarantee that I put all the impacts on that person as quickly as possible. How many rounds will it take? I have no idea. I am basically going to work that trigger and work those sights with my grip until that person's actions stop doing whatever it is that threatens me or someone else. If I'm a competitive shooter, we're constantly switching between large targets and small targets, various distances. And so I may want to use a really fast cadence up close on something large, and I may want to use a slower cadence on something far away that's small. You get the picture. But I want to be comfortable in all zones, so I always know what speed is appropriate for my skill level at whatever distance. So you notice that these targets are elongated, because as we're constantly working our sights and trigger, we may not always have a perfect sight picture under recoil, but as soon as I have a good enough sight picture, I want that next shot to break on time. But I don't want left and right deviation, because once again, I got to be accurate for a human-sized target. So the very first box is 5 rounds. In fact, all of them are 5 rounds, but it's 1 shot per second. So the holster draw is really not important for this one. The cadence is. And so the cadence is going to be 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago, 4 Chicago, 5 Chicago. Your support hand is going to take a much larger role now. So I've got my gun together, I've got my grip together, I've got my sights on target, I'm all the way on the pressure wall of that trigger. I'm going to count the first 5, then I'm going to shoot the second 5. So I really want to ensure that my support hand is doing all the gripping, which will allow my right hand just to relax and work the trigger. So here it goes. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago, 4 Chicago, 5 Chicago, 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago. All right, well, that first one sucked. Happens to the best of us. The next box is going to be 2 shots per second, and the cadence sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So I'm going to count 5 and shoot 5. It's important you're counting your head. It's important you stay on that count while you're shooting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Ooh, I lost the sight picture on that last one. Notice I let it go anyway, because I got to stay on that cadence. Third box is 3 rounds per second. 3 rounds per second sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an absolute mess. Okay. That's all right. So now I'm going to top off, because I don't think I still have 5 rounds left here. And we're going to work on that 4th box. Now, 4th box is 4 rounds per second. This one's a little dicey. I won't be able to count and do it at the same time, but I want you to hear what the cadence sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. doing makeup. Maybe I shouldn't have. I just doubled down on my misery. That's okay. So that concludes 50 rounds, okay? So that last box that's been left untouched is our bonus box, okay? So for those of you, I find most common that people do 1 round per second and 4 rounds per second really good. They can't do 2 and 3. Folks that do 2 and 3 rounds per second are really awesome. They struggle with 1 and 4. So this last box is so that you can work at your own pace, starting slow, gradually increase speed to the fastest thing you can deliver with 1 whole magazine. So those guys have 17, 20 rounds in your mag. This is a lot of fun. For those of you that are limited to 10, it's not as much, okay? So here we go. Good strong grip, starting nice and slow. And then go as fast as you can and keep it inside that box, okay? That's the warm-up drill. That's how we do it. So whether you're using the Mantis Academy at home and recording all your shots, or you're just doing dry fire, or you're using airsoft in the backyard, neat thing is everything you practice at home, you now have a drill with a target that you can print out yourself, take it to the range, and verify you can still do it under live fire without over manipulating stuff. So thank you very much for joining us. Once again, check out DCS training online. Check out the Mantis X and the Mantis Academy. Both of those are great dry fire training tools. Don't forget about the Mantis Blackbeard. Hopefully I'll get to do some videos on that pretty soon. Also, check out Faster Saves Lives and make sure that your local schools and churches and their security teams know all about that excellent program. I'm Dave Laird. Thank you very much.